虽然并不是每个人都可以参加奥运为国争光，但你知道在职场有非常多的 sports idioms， 而且是我们常常听到的。那今天我们就来分享给大家一些在职场上可以用到的运动俚语。Hello， 欢迎来到 Executive Plus 主管双语沟通力的 podcast。我们希望带给大家最实用的沟通工具，包括了成功人士对全球市场的分享、职场英语的技能、跨文化沟通技巧与其他能帮助您成为出色领导者的工具。Hi, I'm Sherry, founder of Executive Plus. As a language trainer and certified coach, I've trained hundreds of managers from Fortune 500 companies such as Dior, Google, Deloitte, and Yahoo.
And I'm Nick, Director of Communication Strategy at Presentality.I've helped startups raise millions of US dollars in funding and train the executives of publicly listed companies to present on the global stage.
Welcome to the Executive Plus podcast,
where you can take your communication and language skills from good to great. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Executive Plus podcast. With the Olympics in full swing and everyone getting medals and talking about in the news,A lot of people are busy talking about sports and the Olympics. Today, we're not going to talk about the Olympics directly, but we are going to point out that in English, you use sports metaphors all the time, and some cases so often that we forget it's a sports metaphor to begin with.Absolutely.
那其实我在准备这个单元的时候，我也发现，其实我们常常用的很多，我平常用的很多片语，它其实是 sports idioms。然后我仔细想想才发现，它其实是来自很多不同的运动。So it's actually really quite interesting. And today we're actually going to talk about different idioms coming from different sports.A
lot of people already use specific sports idioms in the office without even knowing it. And some very common things that you hear around the office, for example, is the idea of hitting your target.
So where do you think this comes from?
This is actually an archery reference.
Okay,
so
that makes
archery,
sense.
A bow and arrow to hit the target.
Right.
Even though we're usually talking about sales goals or performance metrics, this is originally an archery metaphor.And
I know there's another one that we often use is get the ball rolling, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Get the ball rolling, meaning to gain momentum.
Yeah.
Well, bowling metaphor.
Yeah. Just get things started, right? Get the ball rolling. And another one, take your shot.
Yeah, take your shot. This is actually a reference to almost any ball sport, but especially like basketball. When someone has a free throw, right? They stand at the line and they show. A lot of times a referee will say, okay, take your shot.
Right.
But now we use it as like to grab an opportunity or to try something, right? Like take the shot. You know, and you may miss. Again, the idea is it's an opportunity or it's a risk. We may miss, it may work, it may not. But we always say take a shot.
Yeah.
Sports metaphor.
And then we also use, take sides. I don't want to take sides.Is it from specific sports?
Not from specific sports, but a lot of times when we're very young, when you're out on the playground with your friends and you're deciding basketball teams or football teams, you'll have everyone line up in a row and then you'll have captains choose. And you have to pick a side, right?
Yeah.
You have to pick a team to be on. This is the idea. To take a side or to pick a side is to choose a team that you want to be on.
Right.
Well, we use this very often now.For example, it's like, are you on my team or are you on their team?
对，没错。Like, for example, 朋友在吵架 you're like, oh, I don't want to take sides. I don't want to be part of it.
Right.
Yeah.
So these are a lot of common metaphors that you'll hear in the office and probably people use already. So today, we just wanted to share a few more interesting metaphors that are related to sports, but work really well in an office environment.So
the first one's actually related to a lot of sports, which is drop the ball.
Right. It's very common in sports, especially baseball, football, where if you're holding the ball and you drop it, there's some very serious consequence for doing that. So baseball, you catch it and drop it, then you don't get an out. Football, you're running, you drop the ball, it's a fumble. So you also hear the term fumble the ball.Which means that you drop the ball and the thing that you had responsibility for, you're supposed to hold and protect the ball, you have now lost it.
Right.
So you have failed your responsibility, you have failed expectation, or you've made a huge mistake.
I see. So, when you actually made a mistake, 如果你犯了什么错误，或者是你本来预期的并没有达到你预期的，可能是因为你做错什么事情，或者是 something happened, you can say, I dropped the ball on that one.
Right. So like a manager may say, oh, my team really dropped the ball in hitting our performance goals, hitting our sales goals, and I take responsibility. The second metaphor that we want to share is an American football metaphor, but sometimes you'll see this same term used in rugby or other ball sports, and that is blindsided.
Yeah, blindsided. 其实这个有一部电影嘛 right?
Yeah, The Blind Side. And that's actually a reference to several things, but including football.
Absolutely. So blindside 就是说你并没有看到这件事情会发生，你没有预期这件事情会发生。通常我们在职场上用这个idioms 的时候，是在形容你可能被什么人背叛啊，或者是你完全没有预期这个人会做这件事情，或这件事情会发生。
So the idea behind blindside comes from, in American football, you have the quarterback, the person whose job is to take the ball and throw it. You're most often either right or left-armed thrower. And that arm will be farther back on your body, which means your back is going to be to a certain side. So if you're blindsided, is when someone comes around and will hit that person in the back and they will not see them coming. And in fact, why the movie is named The Blind Side is the main character's job is to protect the quarterback's blind side so that someone will not come around and hit him from behind. But anytime that we get hit by a problem or by a person and we don't see it coming, that's blindsided.
So you can say, Jack was blindsided by his coworker who tried to claim the credit of his work. Now, the third idiom that we wanted to share with you guys actually comes from sailing.
Yes. Sailing, the idea of getting a second wind. You'll often hear people who were super tired and they needed more energy, and then suddenly they got another burst of energy. They will call this their second wind. Parents may fear this among all things as a child will get its second wind after bedtime. Where suddenly they get that burst of energy and then they're ready to go again.
You can say, I got my second wind after having that cup of coffee. Now I'm ready for presentation number 2.
The idea of a second wind. Our next idiom comes from tennis. And this idiom is the ball is in your court. Meaning it's your responsibility to handle this now. So if you can imagine the tennis court, there's always two sides, right? So if in tennis or ping pong, it's on your side, it's your responsibility to hit it back. So anytime that we're working on like a project that I get information and then I have to pass work to the client needs to approve it, they give me feedback, I make changes, this back and forth, then when it goes to one side or the other, they'll say, the ball's in your court, meaning it's now your responsibility, and then you'll hit it back, it's now my responsibility.
所以在business negotiation 我们也常常听到类似的这样的 idioms. 那其实actually I hear a lot in dating world as well, right?
Oh yeah, they'll be like, I sent him a text message. The ball's in his court, right?
Exactly, yeah. So that's really interesting. And the last one we wanted to share with you guys is from golfing, which is par for the course.
And meaning that it is normal or expected, average. So anyone who follows or enjoys playing golf knows that every hole on a golf course has a par. That is the expected number of hits it will take you to get the ball in the hole. And par is normal. It's average.
是平均值.
And so when we say something is par for the course, that means that's just average or what's expected.
I feel like I hear a lot of this idioms used when we're describing an event that happens in life. It's par for the course, right? Death or dealing with sorrow. That ups and down in life, we say that's par for the course.
Right. And so for the work environment, you might hear something and it's like, oh, over the holidays, we always have to work overtime. You're expected to be here and finish your work before the holiday season. That's just par for the course. Or you actually will hear something like, if you get a performance review and there's nothing you did that's necessarily wrong, but there's nothing that you did that was necessarily great, then someone might just say, oh, you're really on par.
On par, right.
Right, which is just you're doing the average amount of work, or, again, nothing bad, but nothing good. So everything's pretty normal. Like, yeah, you're about on par, or you're at what we expected.
所以如果人家跟你说 oh, your performance is on par, this may not be the greatest news. You might probably wanted to ask how you would improve, right?
Right, because it means that you're doing what they expect, but that also means if you're trying to negotiate a salary raise, you're trying to negotiate a promotion, and your work is just on par, you're probably not going to get it. Not because of mistakes, but because you're not going beyond what they expect.
那这个地方其实要注意，因为其实我以前刚刚开始学到这个 idioms 的时候，我一直以为那个 part 是 part， 所以其实是 P-A-R, not P-A-R-T. And I think a lot of people make that mistakes as well.
Well, we hope that you enjoyed our explanation of common sports idioms around the office, and that you'll start to pay a little more attention to what other people say and think about maybe where it comes from. Talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
如果你喜欢我们的 podcast， 欢迎来追踪我们的主管英文 Executive Plus 的 Facebook。那也可以写信到我们的信箱yourcareerplus@gmail.com